No.
No, it's-
Okay, so this is an irregular. Let's see if I can do this in order. We have Councilor Leary from Ward 1, myself from Susan Albright from Ward 2, Councilor Kelly from Ward 3,
Yeah.
Councilor Gentile from Ward 4, Councilor Getz from Ward 5. Vicky's not here, and Margareto's not here. And we have Councilor Kalis from Ward 8. And we have tonight, I should read all these into the record?
Yes. Yep.
We have all of these budget items to discuss. 8-24, Her Honor the Mayor submitting the fiscal year 2025 to 2029 capital improvement plan pursuant to section 5.3 of the Newton City Charter. 194-24, Her Honor the Mayor submitting the 25 through 29 supplemental capital improvement plan. And 195-24, Her Honor the Mayor submitting in accordance with the section 5.1 of the City of Newton Charter, the fiscal 25 municipal school operating budget, passage of which shall be municipal/school operating budget, passage of which shall be concurrent with the FY 25-29 capital improvement program. And that's what we're discussing tonight. And we have Commissioner Morse with us from Public Buildings. We have the Chief Operating Officer, Jonathan Yo. We have Connor Roach from, are you from Financial Services? Is that what it's called?
Yep.
And we have Perry Rosenfeld. You also Financial Services?
Yes.
And other counselors, we have Counselor Block from Ward 4, Counselor Downs from Ward 5, and Counselor Wright from Ward 3, and Counselor Bixby from Ward 6. And we have new TV from the city. So I think now, Commissioner Morse, we're ready for you.
All right, thank you very much. First off, thank you, counselors, for taking the time this evening. This is going to be interesting. I think all of you, so each time I come for my budget presentation, we talk a brief period of time about the budget itself, answer any questions you might have. Most of my budget presentations focus on the capital projects, but I'm, of course, happy to answer any questions that you have. What's interesting about this go around is that it was 8 weeks ago that I was before the Public Facilities Committee, along with several other counselors who came, and I updated you on every single one of the projects that I'm going to update you on tonight. What's also interesting is that many of you serve on the building committees, so you have an intimate knowledge of many of these projects, and all of you receive my bi-monthly updates, comprehensive capital project updates, and some of you may even see it on social media as well. So I will, when I go through the capital projects, I'm going to go through fairly quickly because there's a lot there, but I don't want to just repeat myself from 8 weeks ago. But again, happy to answer any questions that you have on that front. So I'm just going to speak to my budget, and then we can answer, or happy to answer any questions that you might have. And then I'm going to roll right into capital projects and round things out with a quick update on the Lesson 75 in our Public Buildings Lessons Learned database. So the Public Buildings Department budget is pretty straightforward. What you'll see is about a 6% increase, annual increase, which is a little deceiving because that works out to about $411,000, but about $222,000 of that, or a little over 50%, falls into a couple buckets. About $122,000 increase in utility costs. So that's something that is outside of that's a rate issue, not necessarily a use issue. And then about $100,000 increase, so $50,000 and $50,000 in our contractual maintenance and our Lesson 75 small project accounts. And those are good things. As many of you who've been around the block a few times know, those are accounts that we try to increase each year. And with the administration support, we've been able to do that again. So again, if you back those out, you're looking at a 3% increase to our budget, which is pretty typical. There's no other major surprises that I saw in the budget, but again, I'm happy to answer any questions on that. There's been no major changes to personnel, other than I will say Arthur Cabral has finally retired. He almost made it to 50 years working for the city of Newton. A heartfelt thank you to Arthur. He served, it's unbelievable how many years he dedicated to the city. He did a lot for me in my professional development, and he was an anchor for the department. So he just retired last week. So that's the big change on that end. But with Arthur leaving, we also have some good news. Many of you may remember Paul Farolito. He was a project manager. He was the project manager for the Cabot School project, Zervis, Ainger. He left a few years ago. We've been actively searching for a construction project manager to fill his role. And that's a challenging one to fill, especially in the industry right now. But we just found a needle in a haystack a few weeks ago, and Victor Imperato is going to be joining our team. He comes from Elkis Manfredi, a very large architectural firm, with a strong background in architecture and construction project management. Towards the latter half of his career, and looking to travel a little less, settle down a little more, and have a little less cutthroat of an industry. So their loss is our gain. So we're very excited to have Vic joining the team. We're also actively hiring custodians. We had a couple retirements there. And I think as of today, a few offers are going out. So we'll be getting back fully staffed on that front too. Those are the major personnel updates. Happy to answer any questions about the budget before I move into the capital projects. Councilor Downs?
Okay.
Typically, the chair calls on the people.
I'm sorry.
But
I'm
that's-
sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but I'm happy to go first, but I know that it's up to the chair.
Sorry about that, Chair. I'm so used to leading Zoom meetings. I apologize.
Josh, really?
Okay.
That's fine. Counselor Downs, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I like to start out with praise before I start in on everything else. And Director Morse, I'm just always blown away by the emphasis on preventative maintenance, by the number of projects and how well you're taking them on, and by your communications, which is just so helpful in so many ways. I had some minor questions about the solar PV installation, possibly at 8 sites. Is that, I had heard something about cost of steel and that not being parking lot. So are we looking at roof installations?
So those that's a great question. So those 8 sites were previously approved by the city council a while back. Bill Ferguson has been doing yeoman's work working with our solar provider, our solar developer. We have finally struck a deal to move forward on that. So what I was referring to, Councilor Downs, was when we were discussing the Countryside School project. So that would be, I don't know what phase we would call that, I suppose phase 5 solar that we haven't got to yet. But those projects are moving forward. Because it's been a little while, we're going to be working with the principals, Newton Public Schools, the ward counselors to get updates out before we get going on those again. But hot off the press, we are going to move forward.
And they are going to be mostly roofs and not parking lot solar, I take it.
It's actually going to be a mix. It's going to be roofs and parking lot solar on that phase.
Okay. Okay, great. And I'm always excited to see, the energy sustainability metrics being met. And I agree about Mr. Ferguson. And I was excited to see that Pierce is now our last remaining school with oil. Do we have any municipal buildings that are still on oil, or is that it?
We still have a few buildings out there on oil, especially some of our really small
gas.
buildings that are running off of 250-gallon tanks, just like a residential tank, basically.
Okay, and I'd love to have another conversation about purchasing RECs or doing other sustainability measures and what that would mean. So the other question I have is just the maintenance line went down a little bit this year.
Hi, I just wanted to let you know that about.
Hold on one second. Counselor Wright, for some reason, we can hear you on,
No, this wasn't Laura, we don't even know.
Counselor Wright, was that you?
Nope. That was mine.
That sounded like her.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. it
No,
was my
okay.
computer.
Go ahead, Counselor Downs.
Thank you. The maintenance budget and the overall budget went down by $20,000. Wondering why that is?
So can you, I'm just scrolling through right now. Can you identify which line item you're looking at on the budget?
So financial and operating highlights. Administration 1572851. Municipal building maintenance, you go from 2163672 to 2146388. It's the only number that goes down. But it caught my eye, and I'm just curious. Are our buildings so new now we don't need to spend as much on them?
No, I believe, and I'm still trying to catch up on my book to make sure I'm looking at the same number, but we do have, there was a shift in where we put personnel expenses from municipal building maintenance to the administrative side, but there was no net change in the personnel. It's basically where we're billing that against. So no reduction in building maintenance.
Okay, and then
Is that correct?
And then if I can have one final question. I noticed that you have on page 1, when you start getting into the more detailed numbers, department legal level of control, school building maintenance at 773,500. What schools are we maintaining on it from the city side?
So there's a few things that we do, and this is a good opportunity to explain how this works for some of our newer counselors. So the Public Buildings Department is responsible for the maintenance of the school facilities. The school department has charter maintenance. Charter maintenance is used for paying direct invoices for the on-call contractors that we manage in public buildings. They're responsible for any overtime that our tradespeople work. But the tradespeople themselves that work for my department spend 80 to 90% of their time working in the schools. So there's a significant amount of school maintenance that occurs there. There's also indirectly related, the water bills for the schools are paid by public buildings. So you'll see that in the budget as well.
Okay, so that then begs the question, we have municipal building maintenance, which is a much larger number than school building maintenance on the same page. It's 2,146,000 and change, whereas school buildings is only 773,000 only.
Yep. So, and that would be problematic if that 700,000 was the only money that we spent on school building maintenance, but it is just a small piece of the large pie.
I see. So it's just a little unclear.
It's really just water and sewer charges. That's it.
Yep.
That's that's the water and sewer charges?
It
Yep.
is.
Okay, that's good to know. So more low flow toilets and maybe we'll get that number down.
Maybe.
Thank you. I really appreciate this.
Thank you, Counselor Downs. So I didn't introduce Scott Matthews, who's our committee clerk. And Scott, this is the second night that the sound in this room is really bad.
Yeah. Well,
If you can check into it and get it fixed, because something's wrong. It's everybody online feels like they're coming through. Counselor Getz described it as coming through a box. It's just not working very well, so we'll get that fixed. I'm going to ask a few questions if nobody else is going to raise their hand. So, Commissioner Morse, you said that your budget increased by 3%. And in the budget book, it says your budget increased by 6.62%.
Yep.
Could you explain that?
Sure. So what I was mentioning earlier was that the budget went up by 6.6%, but if you look at where those increases lie, there's about $122,000 of that increase was in utilities, and about $100,000 broken up in 50 in chunks of 50 were increases to our 52407 maintenance account, and the other one was our less than 75 small project account. So for a total of $222,000, it was made up in those three buckets: increases in maintenance and less than 75, which are certainly good things, I think. And then utility costs, which are a little out of our control because a lot of that is driven by rate. So if you back that 222 out, it works out to about a 3% increase. So I just wanted to point out the driving factor behind that 6.6% increase is really one thing that is, for the most part, out of our control, which is utility costs. And the other being two good news stories: the increase in the less than 75 and the increase in funding for building maintenance.
Okay. So, and throughout the budget, as Counselor Downs pointed out in a couple of accounts, there's a lot of decreases. And I think you explained that things were being moved around to different places. And I think that would have helped to explain that in the written part of the budget. Maybe it is explained somewhere and I just didn't read it, but, you know, like the public building summary there, no, that wasn't it. Like the building maintenance, the 120,000, and then there's it's in various places. So, that would have answered a lot of questions in advance. Does anybody else have questions on this budget?
Well,
Counselor Getz?
yeah, just generally, you know, in terms of understanding how this list at the, what we were sent today. So I was assuming that, in the document, it starts on page 2 and it's a delineation of all the work, and then there's a, you know, it's at the end, there's a cost. So this list is your running list that you, just to understand what this is, it's just a running like punch list, right? In terms of just all the jobs that are throughout the year. This coming year, you will see, it's an estimation of like what the cost is, and then it just, you know, in terms of process, the list just keeps growing.
Which document are you referring
And the
to?
document that.
On the agenda.
It's the less than 75 account.
Yeah.
So I was going to speak to that at the end, but I'm happy to go through it now if you'd like.
Oh, okay, all right, no, I just sort of, you know, needed to interpret what this meant, you know, because it's all the public building potential work, but then it sort of seemed like the schools were interwoven into it at some level, right? So, well, now that I'm looking at it, these are not school properties, this is all.
Yeah,
public.
that's correct.
Okay, all right, so I just would like a little history of how this list is formulated, and is it something that you pull together and you just keep, you know, it's not, it's maintenance, it's building maintenance, and it just keeps going, right?
Yep. So let me jump in here and I'll jump right to this. So what you're looking at, and this should have been provided in the Friday packet.
Could you make it a pitch bigger, Counselor?
Yep, absolutely.
No.
So what this is, back in 2011, the city of Newton conducted a building assessment of all of our municipal buildings, all 55 of them. The report that was generated ultimately led to our capital improvement plan and the structure and our approach to the capital improvement plan, the risk of failure, impact of failure approach. And part of that assessment, we drew the line at $75,000 for projects that were identified as capital, and anything beneath that or below that level was not considered capital. So for a couple of years there, we had this kind of gray area where these projects were too big for typical building or typical maintenance, but not big enough to be a capital project. So what we ended up doing was we took that Excel spreadsheet many years ago now, and we generated what's called the less than 75 project list. That's what this list is. And at the same time, when we created it, we created a line in the budget, which you'll see in my budget now, for capital expenses. And that is for these projects that are less than 75,000. So what ends up happening is every year we go through this list and we update it to remove projects that have been completed, to introduce new projects that need to be put on the list, update descriptions, and update costs. So this is a living document, and each spring, as part of the budget process, I present this document so that folks have it at the ready.
Great. So this is gonna, and all those estimates are, you know, guesstimates, you know, they're not, they were assessed a year ago, you know, it's just, it's, I'm assuming, you know, with today's construction costs and that they incrementally will increase, you know, in terms of cost, right?
Yep. So what these were all back in 2011, they were all professionally estimated with a third-party independent cost estimator. What I do is I increase based on a number of different factors, ways and means, as well as professional cost estimates that we get. And I apply unit prices from other projects, like for instance, for a roof replacement. I have, with so many projects going on right now, I have lots of professional cost estimating documents that I can draw from. So we update these each year.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. All right, thank you. Counselor Kalis.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think he has more of a presentation. Am I right?
I do.
Yeah, okay. So that's why I was waiting for him to go through his whole presentation. But my only question at this point is, when is Arthur Cabral's retirement party?
So Arthur actually already retired once, and we had a big party for him. He came back in a part-time capacity after he retired. So on this one, he did not want any fanfare. We already did the big to-do. So on this one, he's just riding off into the sunset.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Leary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will wait till the end of Josh's presentation, okay, before I have asked my questions.
Okay. So, and Commissioner, if we have words of final farewell to say to Art Cabral, can we forward them to you and you can forward them to him?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do that.
So it's hard to believe that he's really gone this time.
I know. Last time he retired on a Friday and was back to work on Monday. So,
Okay, why don't you go ahead.
okay. Thank you. Let me just pull up the appropriate document. All right, so I'm going to take you through our large capital projects, and through this, I'm going to give some kudos along the way, not only to my staff, but a lot of volunteers that go into this too. So as many of you know, I do these comprehensive capital updates every other month. These get sent out to my project listserv, which is about 10,000 residents who've signed up for this. And then we post it online and I push it out through social media as well. So the Countryside School project is moving along extremely well. For folks that remember, we've already got site plan approval. We are in our design development phase. We're currently working with the Conservation Commission. That's kind of the biggest focal point right now. We're actually going before them tomorrow night. We went a couple weeks ago, a very good meeting. They gave us a couple of small action items that we have incorporated into the drawings and the presentation. So we'll be going back to them to get approval to move forward with the project. We're in great standing with the MSBA. Everything is going along swimmingly. No pun intended with the water table over there. We are currently also working with the interior design. That's where a lot of our focus is right now. The exterior is pretty well nailed down. Our site plan is very, very developed. So we just met with the design review committee last night. Members of the building committee joined us as well. Really starting to get in to start picking paint colors and finishes within the building. It's just a few pictures here. Cafeteria, we're going to breathe a little more color into this. It's a little too brown right now, so you'll see some more color coming in. But these are some updated progress sets. We are with the Countryside School project. We're now meeting monthly with the design review committee. The building committee joins us, but the design review committee is taking the lead. We have another month or so of design development, and then we're going to move into the final phase design, which is construction documents. That will take us about 9 months. So it means that by this time next year, we will have gotten into construction. So probably looking at getting in the winter and getting started early spring with some of the early packages. We right now, the working theory is that Countryside will stay in the current building and we'll build a new school on the fields. Well, we're definitely building the new school on the fields. The theory is that they're going to stay put, and we're going to be working with Newton Public Schools and the community, certainly Beth Hurley, the principal, in the next few weeks to finalize that official decision. We're still on track to be completed by the summer of 2027, maybe even a little earlier, and that'll be something that we update as we move into construction documents. So we're definitely at least on schedule, if not ahead of schedule. The Lincoln Elliott project, we had the pleasure of doing a tour with many of the city councilors not too long ago. The project is advancing rapidly. I was just there today, working from the top down. On the 3rd floor, we have all of our mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection is going in. The rooms are all studded out, drywall's going up, duct insulation is going on. And lateral steel bracing is being installed. We are on track to start swinging steel on the gym, office, library addition in the next couple of weeks. So that's very exciting. The addition will start to take shape. The site work is really advanced quite a bit. We don't have too much left to do. It does look like a lot of dirt over there, but we're in a good spot. We've been doing monthly community construction update meetings, and these have been going very smooth. We've had no complaints at all from any of the community at these meetings. In fact, lots of compliments. Things have been going smooth. We are currently doing some work in Jackson Road right now with our water tie-ins, our fire hydrant move, and some stormwater work. We've been able to work with the Newton Police Department, thank you very much to them, to maintain the road open at all times. We do go to one lane when we're doing that work, but we've been coordinating with them as well as Newton Public Schools and the Jackson School over there as well. Like I said, things are going very smooth. This is looking down at the addition. We've advanced quite a bit. I mean, literally it changes every day. We just wrapped up pouring the elevator pit, which would be bottom right of this screen. And like I said, we'll be swinging steel in a few weeks here. So our project manager on this, we got a couple, but our construction project manager is Tommy Rooney. He's been with the department now coming up on 10 years. He's doing an excellent job out there. Really does an incredible job working with the community, making sure that we're being good neighbors, keeping control of things like dust and noise, vibrations, things like that. So we've been working hard on that front. We are on schedule and on budget on that project. So no major surprises on the contingencies thus far. All right, we're rolling over to the Franklin School project. So Franklin, big picture, we are going to the design review committee on May 15th to start the 558 site plan approval process. Our site plan has been pretty well developed and refined for a while now. And really what we were waiting on was to get some additional test pits so that we can refine our stormwater approach, because that is one of the elements that we're required to tackle as part of 558. A lot of what we've been doing outside of the kind of behind the scenes stuff is working on our renderings, playing around with different external building materials as well as colors. As you can see here, playing around with quite a few different elements, and it really does change the look and feel of the building. No final decisions have been made yet, but this does help us advance the design. As you can see, this is looking from the bus loop on Derby Street towards the main entrance, which would be right in the center here. Let me just zoom in a bit. So academic bar to the right of that are our new fields. Not shown in this picture are the playgrounds. We just, the equipment hasn't been designed yet, so it's not shown there. Stairwell in the center here. You've got the library. Here, the gym is beyond the building on the backside. So, and of course, main office right inside the main entry there. We're spending a lot of time looking at the rear of the building as well. This faces Clark Road. We're going to be, there's a lot of focus here. This is our gym. It's where the gym wants to be, but at the same time, we're sensitive to the fact that we have direct abutters back there. So we want this to be, that we want the rear of the building to be as attractive as the front of the building. So we just spent quite a bit of time with the design review committee working on this as well. We're sharing this with the abutters. And I have some renderings. I've had our design team do renderings from each one of the 4 properties that directly abut the rear of the building, so that we can work with each one of them on what they're going to be seeing, what we can do for landscaping, and fencing, privacy fencing. So look forward to moving that ahead as well. This is a view of the building looking from the parking lot. This would be the staff entrance into the cafetorium, but it also could be the public entrance for events and after school drop off and pickup. This is looking at the building from the fields. The baseball field would be to the left, U10 soccer field to the right. Basketball court is this kind of blue area right here, left center, and then the playground would be straight ahead. We're on track still to complete the project by the start of the 2027 school year. We are a little behind Countryside, which is good because if we tried to do all of these approvals at the exact same time, it would be extremely difficult for us and all of you. So like I said, we'll be coming before City Council in the next couple months for site plan approval, and then moving into design development, and then right on into construction documents. Horace Mann School project. So on this one, just a refresher, we're doing a modest renovation of the existing building, really right-sizing classrooms, moving some interior walls around. But the majority of our focus is on a roughly 20,000 square foot addition in the rear of the building, location AKA the bowl, which is the bottom of the sledding hill, if you will, out back. This project is really about providing adequate space for the Horace Mann School and community. So you can see we've been working with the Newton Historical Commission. This is from Nevada Street, the little staff parking lot to the right of the building. Really, we've been focused on, with Historic, trying to make a good transition from the existing historic building into the addition in the rear. So this glass structure, or glass approach, was the one that they seem to gravitate towards, as well as the community and the design review committee. We're beefing up our entrance on this side, and what's not shown here is that we just started looking at some options where we're going to introduce some natural light, some windows here, which will allow light to come into the gym, which is good. That's the north side. It's where you want light if you're going to introduce it to the gym. So that's going to be a nice small addition. You can see in the rear of the building, this is where the building addition is. We're showing solar panels on the roof. This whole kind of block here is the addition. It is mainly classrooms, but also staff and student support spaces. And then down below, the big element here is the cafetorium and kitchen and service area. New playground beyond that, as well as with the basketball court, and some minor improvements to the site and landscaping. This is standing in the playground, looking back towards the addition over here. We've simplified the transition from the site to the addition, so it's just a very small slope. This is a bird's eye view looking down at it. Like I said, the cafetorium will be down below, classrooms all through here. The library is going to get moved into what is now the cafeteria, so that would be great. It'd be a nice, generous space there with lots of great light. And we're still, right now, we're working with the design review committee on several fronts, starting to get into the, updating our project schedule and really trying to move through the tail end of schematic design and into design development. Once we have that updated schedule, we'll be working with the community on that as well. The Cooper Center project, so if folks haven't been by, J&J Contracting is doing an excellent job over there. They have got the foundations, I would say, are substantially complete at this point. We're going to be, the building is mainly wood frame construction, but we've got a little bit of steel. That steel is going to be arriving in the next couple of weeks, so we'll be swinging steel there in the next few weeks as well. And then, as I mentioned a few months ago when I was going through this project, we're still on track for our wood frame construction and getting weather tight over the summer. So the glue lam, as we like to say, the laminate wood will be showing up early summer, and we'll be framing out over the summer months. So we're also doing community construction updates for this project. Things are going very smoothly. We have had no complaints. It's actually interesting. Our community construction update meetings are a lot of the same players from the senior community that followed the project all along. So it's an opportunity for them to stay connected with one another, which I think is awesome. But there's been more just excitement about the project than there has been questions about construction. So I'll take that as a positive. We are, same thing. It's a tight site. We're close to our neighbors, and we're working hard to control dust, making sure that we're doing everything we can to control vibrations. And one of our primary focuses there is really making sure that we're being good stewards from a parking and traffic standpoint. And I think so far we've done a very good job there. You can see here, this was the first concrete pour for the project. This was April, so this is last month, and now they're almost completely poured out. So they're doing an incredible job over there. Tommy Rooney is our construction project manager here as well. He's splitting time between the Lincoln Elliott project and the Cooper Center. But as I mentioned, Vic Imperato is going to be joining the team next week. And he's going to hit the ground running, and he'll be splitting time between these two sites as well so that we have good coverage. Schedule-wise, we're still doing well. We're still on track for completing the work in the fall of 2025. And, right now we're feeling good about the schedule. I don't see anything that's going to hold us up from that. And of course, on that one, if we can beat it, we will. And the team is doing an excellent job. Over at the Gaff Pool project, this has been a fun one. I mean, it's probably taken years off my life, but it's also been fun. Very aggressive schedule. There's a whole lot of people that are very excited to use this pool, so there's lots of pressure. But the team, so this is Construction Dynamics, is the contractor with sub to Weston Sampson, who are handling the pools themselves. I would say we certainly had our challenges. I'm always hoping that we have an easy winter, not too much snow or ice. Well, I didn't think I would have to worry about it being too warm and having way too much rain. Really, if anything has made things difficult over there, it's been the amount of rain that we've had through the fall and winter and even into the spring. With the high water table, it certainly makes it challenging when you're getting that amount of rain. But that being said, we are still on track to open our pools in time for the swim season. Right now, I was just there yesterday. The both pools are complete. The gutters are in. The retaining wall in the back is built. This area was just getting top dressed. The ramps, these are the accessible ramps up here. Those are in. The railings are fabricated and ready to be installed. Basically the structure or the retaining walls that make the structure of the transition from the pool deck down to the splash pad, those are installed and they're pouring those. I think they're pouring those this week. And then the splash pads themselves are pretty easy after that. We got to do a couple small ramps and then the pads themselves, but those are all at grade. So that's a lot easier. The piping is all in for the splash pads. All the piping is in for our pools. Once we get this final grade back done back here, we're going to pour the pool decks. Right now, we're tentative for early next week to pour the decks. Just to give you a sense as to the level of details we're at now. The crews were just installing the hardware for the diving boards, and I think on Thursday or Friday of this week, so tomorrow or Friday, we will be grouting the pools. So, and that's get a step closer to putting water in them. So, although there's a lot of dirt and it still looks like Mars over there, we're moving fast, and you're going to see things change rapidly in the next couple of weeks. Inside the bathhouse, we are doing epoxy floors right now. Doing wall tile, and then in the next week or so that work will finish, and then the painter comes in, does all the painting. The ceiling contractor will come in, restore all the ceiling. The electricians will restore the lighting. Mason's got a few punch list items to do. Our new showers are in, those spaces are already built out. And then you'll see some finished work, for instance, like the counters at the main desk when you come in. Those will be installed in the coming weeks as well. So inside the building, we're in very good shape. So this project is being managed by a lot of people. So we have Rafiq Ayub in my department. We have Louise in Parks and Rec, Sean Nickerson in Parks and Rec, Nicole Banks swings by. I'm there every other day. So we've got a lot of eyes on this. Not only, I'll just be honest, not only because it's an aggressive schedule and it's very important and we're getting close to the completion date, but also because it's a very fun project. You know, we don't do a lot of public pool projects, so it's a fun one to go check out and see it happen. Folks probably remember a major component of this project was improving the accessibility not only to the pools, aquatic features in the pool deck, but also to the bathhouse itself. So you can see here our new ramp all installed. We've got a little bit of railing work left to do here, but we're in good shape. Those rails will go in when they come for to install the rails on the deck. And it's amazing. Like I just took these pictures a few weeks ago and everything looks completely different. So things are changing very rapidly over there. This was the retaining wall in the back that I was talking about. And this is all the retaining wall is complete and everything is filled in here now. Police facility project. So you probably recognize several of these faces. This was another building that we had an opportunity to tour with the city council. Many of you came over and checked it out yourselves. This is a large project that we're working with. It's the biggest working group that I've ever worked with, that's for sure. We've got members of every union, every division within police, the chief's office, of course, several staff members on my end, and Kessel Booth Associates, architectural firm that specializes in public safety. Really, their bread and butter are police facilities. So we are working through existing conditions analysis, laying out floor space, the existing space plans, adjacencies, very similar to what we do with school projects, identifying where we're short for space, where we need to add, concepts as far as where could we move divisions around, what would make more sense. And we're starting to play around with some potential solutions. Nothing, you know, we're still in feasibility, so we're very early in the design, but we've got a lot of good information that's going to help us move that project forward. And again, the goal of this project is to address the conditions and the space needs of the police department, both in all three facilities: police headquarters, the garage, and the police annex. As well as we're going to make sure that we create a 21st century dispatch center with adequate space and a 21st century training facility. So those are kind of our larger goals that we have with the project. But things are going great there. In addition to that, at the same time, while we're working towards the future, we got to take care of the present. This is the crews installing a new roof over at police headquarters. This is now complete. And then, kind of the catch-all. We talk a lot about these larger projects, but there's a lot of other things happening in public buildings. So recently, the city council approved $6.25 million for free cash to fund a variety of projects. North High pool air handling unit, we're well into design and specifying the unit right now. The Mason Rice and Pierce roofs, I just was on a meeting today, finalizing the plans, getting bid documents ready to go for those with our design team. Newton South High School chiller replacement, that's on order. It's a very long lead time, but we're moving forward with that. Williams School, same thing. We're in the early design phases on all three of those projects, with the exception of the playground, which is even a little further along. Those improvements. The Bigelow and Brown Middle School PA system, we're moving forward with those on getting proposals together. The restroom upgrades, we have a design team, HKT Architects, are working with us to provide the design services specifically on accessibility improvements for those restrooms. But they're helping us out on that front. The DPW, I know, is doing the legwork on the Brown Middle School. They've been working with Newton Public Schools on that. Police headquarters, a parking lot project. So the binder course is down. And we've got electrical run for the fence project. I was just out there this morning, meeting with several contractors to finalize the gate locations. And we'll be doing a community meeting here in the coming weeks, just to make sure that if anybody does have questions, they have an opportunity to ask. No major changes there. It's exactly what I said before. We're putting fence up where the lot lines are. Really just to make sure we're creating a safe space in that parking lot. Emergency vehicles and pedestrians don't tend to mix well. And then the Fire Station 2 project, the heat pump and building electrification, Bill Ferguson is working with Chief Bianchi on that, and things are going smooth. And that's not it. There's a host of other projects. Councilor Greenberg, if you're listening now or in the future, I know I owe you getting moving on the Pellegrini project, and I know it's not just Councilor Greenberg, but she's the one that gave me a call. That's another one where we're replacing the windows, doing masonry upgrades, replacing the roof, and we've got to do some work with the murals, which really is a big community communication and collaboration project. But we got the windows on order. Windows are a very, very long lead time. So we got those going. And when I can catch my breath, I'll reach out to Nonantum and we'll get moving on the plan for the murals as well. For the councilors that made it, we went and took a look at the DPW wash bay project. Again, this is it's not a high profile project. It's small potatoes financially, but it's incredibly important for folks that didn't get an opportunity to come over. This is a small building over in the DPW Craft Street yard. If you were looking at it, it wouldn't look like hardly anything to you. But when this building is working well, it protects a $50 million plus capital asset group, which is our fleet and vehicles. We replaced all of the wash bay system. And this project is going to be substantially complete tomorrow. And COO, you didn't even know that yet. I just found out today that tomorrow will be substantial completion. So very exciting to get that one behind us, get this thing online, and we can start washing our vehicles. And that is our large capital projects. I'm going to stop sharing that one. I'm going to pull up the last document. Oh, and actually, before I do that, I just want to do the thank you. So I've said this before, we are working, this is the fastest pace that the Public Buildings Department and this city has operated at since the response to the baby boom in the 1950s. And, I'll say that it might be, not even might, I'm quite confident that it's even more challenging now than it was in the 1950s. The level of controls and the hoops you had to jump to in the 1950s were nothing compared to what we have to manage in today's day and age. There were a lot of laws that just didn't exist back then. There were a lot of committees and commissions that didn't exist back then. Back then, the Public Buildings Department went to the city council and presented a project. The council blessed it. The money was approved, and that was it. They approved the money at the beginning of the project, and there was nothing else. They just went and built it. But we are able to do what we're doing because of a massive amount of hard work from a lot of great people. It is with the support of the executive office and Mayor Fuller, right on through the chief operating officer and the CFO. It is the city council and all of your support. And just to be clear for anybody listening now or in the future, this is not just the support of the city council at meetings like this. There's a massive amount of work that they do when either preparing for meetings like this or in their capacity that they serve on with our building committees or as design review committee liaisons. There is so much work that you all do. Communicating and passing along communications from your constituents. Those are all parts of what make these projects effective and successful, and what makes it all possible. The volunteers on the school building committees, from parents to staff members to teachers, the teachers themselves. We do routine staff updates, and it's not a one-way communication. Teachers roll up. Some of you may have seen the pictures. Teachers roll up their sleeves. They help us design these buildings. They're part of it. They're part of that process. They take that seriously. They put a lot of hard work into it, and I deeply appreciate that. Our design review committee has never been stronger. We have an incredible team of people. They are dedicated and passionate and friendly and good and fun to be with. It's a committee that I look forward to meeting with. They're just really good people with really thoughtful ideas that want the best for every project and the best for the city of Newton. And we've asked a lot of them. With the amount of work we have going on, these are all design professionals that at the end of a very long day, they're making it an even longer day, completely on a voluntary basis. So huge thank you to them. And then, thank you to departments. We have, there are dozens of departments that play incredibly important roles behind the scenes, making this all happen, whether it be the law department with contracts and change orders, property reviews, or it's the purchasing department with the procurement process. The list just goes on and on and on. Our coordination with Parks and Rec and DPW, the interdepartmental communication and collaboration is massive, and it has to be because there's so much happening. And then, of course, last but not least, the residents of Newton. What I love about this city is how passionate people are. The residents show up to our meetings. The people that live in these neighborhoods care deeply. They show up and they work hard with us to try to make these projects the best they can possibly be. People email, they reach out. These comprehensive capital updates I send out, I get good, positive feedback. I get creative criticism, which I welcome. That's good. So a huge thank you to all of them as well. And then my staff. I have an incredible team. I really do. I'm so blessed to have the people working for me that I do. They're a joy to be around. It's fun every day that they come to work, and I could not do it without them. So I'm going to round things out with just sharing the last document, which is, all right, so lessons learned. So I'm going to give credit where credit's due. Alderman, because this is how far back it goes, Alderman Lappin, many, many years ago, I would say probably close to 20 years ago, started asking the Public Buildings Department to produce, maintain, and present a lesson learned database. When she became Councilor Lappin, and shortly after I took control of the department, we started producing this. So what this is I work with my team on an ongoing basis, and we have, there's hundreds of them here. We develop lessons learned. Every time we do a project, large or small, we create, we debrief at different phases of the project, and we look at what we could do better, what we could do differently. Where could we improve efficiency? Where could we improve the process? How can we communicate better? Where were there design decisions that we made that could have been done better or differently or more efficiently? What are some of the construction lessons learned that we can tweak in order to improve the finished product, the energy efficiency, or the cost? You know, how can we avoid change orders? Maintenance, we get good feedback from Newton Public Schools, working directly with Dave Stickney and his team, and our maintenance team. You know, getting feedback directly from the custodians and the craftspeople and our on-call contractors. How can we make these buildings easier to maintain? Because if they're easier to maintain, they'll be maintained better. And then working with Bill Ferguson on sustainability. How can we constantly push the envelope and do better and be better? Not only in the design and on paper, but after the fact. What can we do to make sure that we're retro commissioning and keeping these buildings as efficient as they possibly can be? So, like I said, these get updated continuously throughout the year, and I present it just like the less than 75 small projects. I present it as part of my budget each year. And these documents are also publicly available.
Thank you, Commissioner Morris.
That's it.
Great, thank you very much. So do you refer to the lessons learned database very often?
I do, and I share it with every single design team and our owner's project manager at the start of every project.
Okay, that's, Councillor Lappin will be thrilled to hear that. And let me ask one other question. Where is the money for the under $75,000 projects? Where is that reflected in the budget?
So that is, it should be capital under building maintenance. Just gonna scroll down here, I apologize. So that's the 52,407, that's that one. Right there, so 58,2500, page 5 on my budget book. Right down where it says building improvements under capital expenses. So this year it's $300,000. It was a $50,000 increase from last year's $250,000.
Okay, that list comes to more than that, so you're only doing a part of it, right?
Yeah, I'm actually, Councilor Albright, I'm glad you raised that. So the other thing that I should mention for everyone, but definitely for our newer councilors, is that while the less than 75 account in my budget certainly helps us eat away at that list, that's not the only way that we fund those projects. Free cash is oftentimes used to fund those. If we have salary savings, oftentimes we'll move money around towards the end of the year to fund those projects. And then large capital projects sometimes address those as well, because you might find a small piece of a project that gets addressed as part of a larger one. So there's a lot of different ways that project gets knocked down. But, you know, I was asked several years ago by a previous counselor, you know, when will the less than 75 project, or when will the less than 75 list get to zero? Well, it should never get to zero. Like you know, I suppose for 1 year, if we had a blank check, we could get it to zero, but that's only because I haven't updated the list. You know, we have 88 buildings in 3 point something million square feet, ranging in lots of different ages. There's always going to be needs. It's got to be a living document. You got to add stuff to it. You got to complete stuff. There's got to be an ebb and flow.
Okay. And then my last question is that you mentioned almost everything in the CIP, except I don't think I heard anything about the municipal EV chargers.
You are correct. I did not mention the municipal EV chargers. So Bill Ferguson is taking the lead on that. Bill and I were just talking about it the other day about, you know, for example, he is increasing the number of heads over at the Elliott Street yard. So we're doing a bunch of double heads there in the parking lot right on Elliott Street. So, you know, that's just an example of where we're expanding that. That's something that Bill works on. I know there's a lot of support from the community. Ann Berwick and even Leora gets involved in that as well. So that's something every year they're working to expand that infrastructure.
So you're not exactly sure what it is you're doing yet this coming year?
So I know what we're doing right now, but I'm not sure what Bill has planned for the next phase, but I can certainly ask him and get that information to you.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Yep.
So Council Wright.
Sorry about that. A quick question about the pool. So the pool is very dependent on weather and it has a pretty strict timeline to open, or we're trying to open before the season. So you've been been working weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. So how is that affecting the cost of the pool, and where will that extra money come from?
Great question. So what ends up happening is we only pay for the difference between the hourly rate and the premium time. So we only pay that delta. So it's a fairly manageable cost. The short answer is we're paying for that out of our project contingency. That's something that we plan for. That's why we have a contingency. We're in good shape financially. We're not going to be coming back to the city council for additional funds. We're not going back, certainly not going back to the Community Preservation Committee for additional funds. So we're, like I said, in good shape there.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions?
I'll ask him.
Go ahead.
offline.
Oh,
I'll
okay,
ask him
all right.
offline.
Counselor Getz will get to you offline. Anybody else? Can I just ask, how far down the $75,000 list do you think you'll get
Today or this year rather?
this year coming?
So the interesting thing about the less than 75 list is that it's filtered by cost, not necessarily by priority. And the priority changes rapidly, unlike many of our capital assets where, a roof, it doesn't tend to change real quick. Something like installing grounded outlets outside the Albemarle Fieldhouse, it's a code requirement. So it's not something that changes. So the reason I say that is that a lot of the projects on the less than 75 list get addressed because of some other need or request. So, what ends up happening, I would say on average each year, I probably complete 20 to 30 projects. But then I add back 20 to 30 projects. So it's kind of a long way of saying I would say probably 10% of the list knocked off each year, but then add 10% back. And then there's some years where, depending on free cash and salary savings, I might knock off 20% of that list.
So next year at this time, could you give us a list of all this less than 75 projects that you accomplished?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, if you'd like, I can go back and I'll grab the first one I did and I'll show you how much we've completed since we started tracking this, because it's it's many millions of dollars.
That would be very helpful. Thank you for that.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, Counselor Leary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Commissioner, it's always a joy to attend these meetings, and it's so wonderful to hear all the work that's been going on. And I just want to also make sure you're thanking yourself and let you know how appreciative we are to have you at the helm of this incredible work. And I also loved hearing about all the people, all the communities getting involved, and all the volunteer work that goes into it. It really is a huge team to get this done, and I'm very appreciative of that. It's a wonderful city to be a part of. So thank you for your good work there. Really, my one thing of course, I wanted to ask about the Pellegrini Fieldhouse. I know you're doing replacing the roof and the buildings, the brick around the walls, right? The actual building itself. So I have some friends that play basketball there, and they're older gentlemen. And the floors sometimes can get very slippery, and they wanted to know if there's anything we can do about buffering the wall. So, when people slide and hit the wall,
Yep.
and sometimes they've been injured doing that. So I just wanted to throw that out is something for next steps. I know that we obviously want to preserve the building, but the inside of it, making sure it's safe, especially for our older players in basketball, is some of the stuff that I've heard. So I just wanted to share that.
Absolutely, and that's something that the chief operating officer and I have been talking about with buttoning up the envelope and making sure we get the building nice and tight. We can start to explore opportunities to improve the interior.
Yeah, we'll mention that to Parks and Rec as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Kalis?
Quick question. So, yeah, Commissioner, I do feel like you're a magician with all this stuff. I don't know how you get it all done, but thank you. On Gath Pool, can you remind me, where are we with the coaches? Are they coming back? Are they pleased with what's going on? I just forget. I know there was a lot of talk at the beginning. There was negotiations about the depth and everything. Can you just remind me where it landed?
Yeah, we're in a good spot with Mary and Scott Pullman. We did a lot of work with them throughout the design process. There were some differences of opinion along the way, but we came together, sat down at the table with the design team, hammered out those details, and we're in a good spot. I heard from Mary a couple weeks ago on one of the updates I sent out. Just happy to see it moving forward. So they are definitely coming back.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Downs?
And so I had kind of a math question. I was reading in the the outcomes and strategies, the Green Communities grants. And, we save over 350,000 a year on energy costs. We've received 2.5 million in utility rebates. That includes 1.4 million leveraged by Green Communities grants, but that's up ahead above it. So all in all, what would you put the savings at for that? Give me a round number.
So our annual savings for all energy investments?
Well, we have some capital investments and then we have annual savings. So and then you have to figure on the number of years that we're getting those savings.
Well, so
Give me a capital round number and an annual operating number.
oh boy. As with any math, it depends on the parameters you set. So, for example, if you want to know about our energy investments, do we factor in large capital projects, Angel Reserve, Cabot, the fire stations, Countryside, Franklin, because tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars over the last 15, 20 years have been spent improving the energy efficiency of our buildings. You layer in the ESCOs phase 1 and phase 2 that we did in the 2010 to 2008 to 2012 timeframe. You look at our solar investments. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's probably, if you were to include the large capital projects, it's probably $500 million that we've invested. And from an annual savings standpoint, that's where it gets a little more complicated too, because there is the savings, but then there's the avoided increase in cost. Those assets would have become, less and less efficient. So it's a bit of a moving target, but I'm happy to go back to Bill and see what he thinks, if there's a way to report that from a macro standpoint.
Yeah, I was just looking at the Green Communities grants, the utilities updates, and then the energy costs saved from those projects. So I wasn't quite looking at absolutely everything we've done with ESCOs and capital projects, but just in that one area where we've really been focused since 2010.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I can certainly get you the total annual savings from the Green Community investments.
That would be great. Thanks.
Yep.
Counselor Wright, do you still have your hand up for a reason?
No, sorry.
Okay, you're all set. Anybody else had questions? I'll just say that, Community Pride has a list of people who do murals. So when you get to the mural part of the Pellegrini, you might get in touch with Meryl Kessler and she can provide that list to you.
Thank you.
Okay. So if there's no other questions, then we need some motions. And on the operating budget, I guess we need a straw vote on the Public Buildings Department to approve the budget, recommend approval of the budget of $6,624,659.
I'll move it.
So move it. Oh, okay. I'm the only one who knows. So it's like,
Okay, so Counselor Gentile,
Okay.
moved approval. All those in favor say yes, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Abstentions? And I guess we also need to vote on 824 and 194-24. Yes, the capital, the CIP projects.
I would, yeah.
Counselor Gentile, do we have to do a straw vote on those two as well?
I think it would be, some of the departments have nothing, so obviously we don't get into it, but this department certainly does, so I think it would be a good idea to get a recommendation with a straw
Okay.
vote.
All right. good. So-
happy to make that motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, Counselor Kelly has moved approval to recommend approval to the full council on the public buildings projects that Counselor Morse told us about that fall under 824 and 194-24. Is that an appropriate way to say that?
Do you need to do them separately or can they be done together?
I think they can be done together because they're both capital improvement projects.
Perfect, so moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Abstentions? So I think we're done. We have a unanimous vote. And thank you very much, Commissioner Morse.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
All the city staff that was here, thank you very much as well.
Yes.
And good night, everybody. We have an early night.
Oh,
Right.
good job. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.